for me.
Howdy, all. Lots of sports news, lots of news in the hockey world, but have to start with this because it's just we have to do it because Russ is a Mets fan. Matt Harvey, who has been one of the better pitchers in Major League Baseball over the last 3 or 4 years. Last year he pitched combined with the regular season and the playoffs, pitched over 200 innings the year after Tommy John surgery, and he pitched pretty well during the regular season and up until the World Series, and then had a bad outing in the World Series.
Whoa, no, actually, that game 5, he pitched into the 9th inning. That wasn't a bad outing. It was 8.1 innings, like 2 earned runs. He just ran out of gas in the 9th inning. It was a great outing, actually. I was there.
Right. But this year, he has been horrific. An ERA over 6. I think he's lost, 7 games, Russ?
Yeah, he's leading the league in losses, 3-7.
And he got demolished by the Washington Nationals, which just to my amusement, Daniel Murphy's hitting close to 400 right now, which is bizarre.
Yep.
But this brings up the question about players who are told to sort of tough it out. And we remember all the stuff that happened during the playoffs and leading up until the playoffs last year, where there was an innings limitation on Harvey. And
on everybody. Actually, every pitcher they had except for Syndergaard.
Right, but him especially coming off the Tommy John surgery and
right.
on the hubbub of what was going on and the criticism that was brought about, and then he sloughed that off and he pitched. Well, now if this is the Matt Harvey that's left, if this is
it's
something
not.
that is, it's probably not, but this is the question I have. Players who are told to tough it out in situations like this, when there's potential career ramifications down the road, don't you think that more and more players are going to tell their teams to go screw themselves? Because he could be costing himself millions of dollars in free agency down the road.
It's a tough thing. I'll tell you this, and I've been looking at this for days and really almost the entire season, but he does have 3 wins. He started off the season fine. So it's not like he went from the World Series to he could never find it. So it's not that situation. And Cologne wasn't under a pitch count either, obviously. But the thing is, what I'm noticing lately is that he's losing velocity after the first couple of innings. Now, the noticeable things are weight gain. We heard about in the summertime, maybe he had too good of a summer, if you know what I mean. And so you kind of wonder with that and the blood clot, did it sort of hamper his spring training? It did a little bit. It definitely set him back a little bit. But he started off the season okay. I think Matt Harvey's biggest problem, and I don't know if it's completely in his arm, but look, I play softball, right? And I play third base, and I'm a 53-year-old, almost 53, playing third base. So when my arm starts to go, I have to do things to compensate because I don't have the zip on it that I used to, and that's really distracting. But go ahead. No, I'm kidding. I was kidding, Jillian. I'm just messing with you.
No, I have to apologize to Jillian. I'm so used to inviting Jillian on Fridays, and that her schedule was different this week, so I omitted her from the tweet and the invite until she's like, "Where the hell's my invite? Damn it!"
Not cool, bro. Not cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just finish up by saying, basically, watching Harvey, he looks like he is a guy that doesn't know how to pitch with his best stuff. And that's a problem because he has always gotten by with his best stuff, right? So he doesn't know how to set up hitters. He doesn't have that many pitches. So he is a guy like Jacob deGrom doesn't have his best stuff this year, and yet he's got an ERA around 2.5 because he knows how to set up hitters and he knows how to get them out. Harvey needs to learn this, so they need to send him back to extended spring training. Right. He needs to learn another pitch. Mm-hmm. He probably just needs to work on his mechanics. Ron Darling's been pointing that out. The problem is, while he's taking all the heat, he left Kevin Plawecki out there, a rookie catcher, to answer for him after the game because he didn't come out to the media, which in New York you can't do. And Dan Worthen doesn't answer anybody, the pitching coach. So these are the big problems. But I think he's salvageable. But I got to admit, this could be a lost season. It could be.
Well, this is not like a Jonathan Chichu situation where he scores 50 goals and then all of a sudden disappears off the planet.
I was talking to Pedro Martinez last night, name drop, and he said that the biggest thing he sees with Harvey is a lack of confidence. Like he doesn't trust whatever he is, right? He believes he's not 100%. I think everybody believes he's not 100%, and because of that, he just simply doesn't trust what he has. And I think a trip to extended for spring training would probably be a good idea. A couple weeks off, go figure out, clear your head, and come back. And he even broke down like the way he's finishing his pitches. There's just no conviction in what he's throwing. He doesn't believe what he's throwing. And as a pitcher, you have to believe that you're throwing that curveball. It's going to have the bite you need on it. Yep. With that being said, the Mets are a game and a half out of first place. It's May 25th. There's 600 games left in the season. They're fine. Let's start the show.
If it were only that easy, Dan.
Okay, let me say this. Where were the Mets last summer before the trade deadline?
I understand.
Much better spot this year.
But they still have problems now with Harvey and catching and third base and first base. So they still have issues. That's all we're pointing out.
Well, let's just say this. He'll regain his confidence once he becomes a member of the New York Yankees.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
You know what? Here's the one other thing, though. Now you got to throw that out. Here's the funny thing about Matt Harvey. The reality is he's 3 games over 500. He's like 28 and 25 lifetime. For all the people that were trying to turn him into Tom Seaver or anything else, Seaver never had a season like this. He never had arm surgery either. Mm-hmm. But the point is, Matt Harvey's never won more than 12 games. He became a big star because he looks good and he throws hard. But at the end of the day, he's never really lived up to it completely in New York, and that's a problem within the Met fan base and within the too.
And he's a Ranger fan too, so I mean you can never trust that.
I hate everybody right now, except for Jillian.
Great. Thanks for that caveat, Russ. All right, Jillian, you start, and then Dan after that, and Russ, you take up the rear.
Wow, that didn't sound right.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Oh, wait. Gotta maintain the.
At least we'll get the date right today.
Yeah, today we'll get the date right.
Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, May 25th, 2016. I'm under pressure.
I'm Jillian Fisher.
I'm Dan Petru.
I'm Russ Cohen, king of the lower third. I don't know how many consecutive days. I'm like the Cal Ripken of the lower third.
Is yours broken too, Dan?
No one.
Yeah, mine doesn't work for some reason. I don't know why.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockeybuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Ak is not here today, as you can see, because he's not on the bottom of the screen, and he will be back tomorrow with the latest news and rumors in the hockey world. Let's jump right into the game last night. Game with a lot of ups and downs. Ends 5-2 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins, which forces a Game 7 on Thursday. Russ, the one thing, and we'll talk about the game in total going forward here, but I want to concentrate first on the offsides call. And I know we've been saying throughout the playoffs that this is going to be a bone of contention at some point during a key game, and I think last night was it. I mean, the referees and the linesmen called the rule as it is currently constructed right now. My problem is that this rule is screwed. I mean, honestly, it should be, and it probably will be changed by the competition committee during the summer to it being the plane of the blue line and not your foot firmly planted on the other side of the ice or on the blue line, because that was a game changer right there. If Tampa Bay gets that goal, I think they probably win the game. There's no proof that you can determine one way or the other.
Maybe, first shot of the game, wasn't it?
But it's a momentum.
I don't buy that.
Oh, come on.
Late in the third, like 5 minutes to go in the third, maybe. But they had an entire game left.
Let me finish my point.
Okay.
It was a momentum changer in one respect, and then second of all, it took them 6 minutes to get the call right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a tough thing. Like they literally, Tampa came out like a house on fire, for a lack of a better term, and they put them on ice with that call. They did. And so that probably took away some momentum. But at the end of the day, it didn't lose them the game. What lost them the game was really lousy defense. Their defense lapped so many times that, and I know Vasilevsky is going to take the brunt of it, and they'll start Bishop because Bishop's been in Game 7s. But you know what? His defense let him down in the biggest way in so many times. But I'll tell you, Mike Sullivan's a genius because he really didn't have to do anything. All Mike Sullivan had to do was show up, put Matt Murray in, and let his guys play. And if he does that again, he'll go to the Stanley Cup. I mean, I think it's going to be like that now.
You know, the defense was like Vasilevsky will get the brunt of the criticism, but 2 of the goals were breakaways. One was a 5-on-3. One was an empty net. If you want to get them out for the other one, okay, maybe. Their defense was just a colossal, fundamental breakdown of their system. And it's like I said last night to you guys that it seemed like it was a 10 o'clock start for them because when there was in the third period, they got some momentum. It's like, where were you for the first 40 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, at times I saw Coburn and Hedman on the same side.
Yeah, that's not good.
Their passes also just weren't crisp. They were lazy. There was actually a moment when I yelled at the screen just out of frustration watching them wait for a pass come to them. And I'm like, that is pee-wee. That is stuff you learn in any sport, that you don't wait for the puck, the ball, anything to come to you. What are you doing? Yeah. So there was just there wasn't this sense of urgency at all from them. And you can bury the hatchet. You can send yourself to the Stanley Cup Finals, and that's how you play. I know a call. They did come out with a little bit of fire. The call didn't go their way, but once that happened, it was like they disappeared until the middle of the third.
Well, and we said this yesterday, talking about the game 6 was that Tampa essentially did the same thing last year against the Rangers. At home, game 6, close out the series. They didn't show up. The Rangers dominated, and then they went to game 7 and won game 7 at MSG.
Exactly.
But the thing is, and this is always a loser's argument, but I'm analyzing it from the Tampa Bay point of view right now. The call on Stralman was a joke. I mean, there was no disputing the Hedman shooting it over the glass. He didn't shoot it over the glass. He shot it out of the Amalie Arena. Yeah. But Stralman was.
That's actually, we got to stop it there because you're right. I've never seen a guy shoot it like into the upper deck.
He cleared the net.
I was watching it and I'm like, how did he even do that?
I don't know. Here's the thing. If you ever saw this, like I've seen hockey players warm up, and some guys could shoot the puck literally from one end of the rink to the other. I have no idea how you can do that, how you have the strength to do that. But Hedman did something where if the Guinness World Book of Records were on this, that is probably a world record, but just nobody tracks it.
Yeah, I was wondering
real quick, go ahead. That is another rule that we hate, is the delay of game. Because generally speaking, they are not doing it deliberately. It is not that they're out of control. In the Pittsburgh Capitals series, they had 3 back-to-back-to-back, and only one of them it looked like he was a little bit out of control, flustered, and that's not what you want. But that's another rule that we hate in this game.
I don't hate it. I think there could be an adjustment to it.
I have in my time playing, and I was by no means any great player or anything. I never put it over the glass on purpose. Now I shot it into the opponent's bench numerous times on purpose. I never targeting certain individuals, but I never put it over the glass on purpose. Like sometimes you get caught in your backhand, you're trying to chip it out. You know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that rule. I don't love it, but the problem is when we hit the postseason, I feel like you have your regular season NHL rule book and your postseason rule book is this sheet of paper and they write puck over glass on it. It's like the only 2 penalties they call consistently are puck over glass and if you slash someone and their stick breaks. That's the only thing. Those only 2 things that are consistent during the postseason. It just makes for frustrating hockey.
And there's one player who basically says that if somebody slashes his stick, he basically holds his stick loose, that it falls out of his hand. So
that's ridiculous.
I would do one better. If I was a scoring type and I knew it was a tight game, I would come out with a stick that has a slight hairline break right near the top. I would tape it up and just because if I know if I'm an offensive player, somebody's going to slash me, and just let him do it. And that's like the easiest way to get away with that.
But I don't want to.
One that's annoying is I was talking to somebody last night. The blood, if you draw blood, it's automatically 4 minutes. Doesn't even matter if it's a tiny little bit or a huge amount, and those are 4 minutes. That's a lot of time, and it doesn't detract. So I've seen high sticks that are worse that don't draw blood.
Chris Letang.
So half these guys are biting their lips so they can draw blood.
Chris Letang's penalty. That was never even called a penalty. Never mind.
Well, this is the one thing. I mean, I don't want to go back to the days, and I remember the days when it was a judgment call by the referees and the linesmen whether the puck was shot over the glass with intent or not with intent, because then you're leaving it up to them. The onus is on them, and they most of the time get it wrong because to me it's a field play. It's a time like if a team is panicked in the defensive zone, if they're shooting over the glass, it's on purpose. But also, what I think is a contributing factor here, and maybe not in this series, but in other games during the regular season and during the playoffs, there is no uniformity in the NHL in terms of the height of the glass in some of these rinks. Some of them have shorter glass on the side. Some of them have higher glass on the side. There is no uniformity, and there should be. That's something that if you're playing in Arizona or you're playing in Tampa Bay, the glass on the sideboards and the boards behind the net should be the same height.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing else I can add to that. Yes.
Yeah,
good analysis, Dan.
Thank you.
But going back to the one call, it was so bad that you don't typically hear the analysts say, like, oh, like that one, I don't know how he stops because he's already committed. You don't usually hear the announcers really having that kind of commentary. And when they do that, it is kind of like if they were playing, they wouldn't want that called.
Right. And considering, too, it was the Rangers broadcast, usually you wouldn't see that. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say that loud? It was the Rangers broadcast. You wouldn't see that. They were unbiased as well.
No. Again, last night, as in Game 5, Tampa Bay, with their penchant of giving up big goals in the last minute of the period, the Crosby goal that puts them down 3-0. I mean, taking into consideration the fact that Tampa Bay rallied in the third, and if they hadn't allowed that goal, the game would have been tied. To me, it's a very big goal. I mean,
can we also talk about how Crosby made that look easy, like going through all this, like how he makes it look so easy. That is so impressive.
Yeah, it was off the turnover. He made it look easy. I got to say, Sheary had a pretty good game, so I can't rip him. He actually played well. He finally did something.
He watched the show yesterday. That's why.
Yeah, he did something to make me say, okay, stay in the lineup. So that I noticed. But Hornqvist really was unbelievable. Like he was a difference maker too. He's never going to get the full credit that he deserves. And Malkin stepped it up. Malkin really did step up his intensity. A lot of times we want to sort of say something bad about Malkin if he's not scoring tons of points, but he really stepped it up too. But you know what? The Crosby goal was the dagger. Like that's the one where, Pittsburgh, like that gives them all the momentum. It's their captain doing it. It's the guy that was getting ripped for half the playoffs for not scoring doing it. Tampa's now really under the gun here. I think they're going to do the goalie switch. I don't know what else they're going to do, but they need to have a pretty good lobotomy because I got to tell you, I thought the Boyle goal was lucky.
The second one? Oh, yeah.
The second one was lucky.
That still counts, though. I mean,
Phil Kessel was even on the night. He batted in a puck into the net, and he batted in the puck into the Pittsburgh net, so he was even. But no, let's go to Game 7 because we have to look at and we have a couple days until tomorrow when that game will take place in Pittsburgh. But do they go to Bishop at 60%? I mean, Vasilevsky in the games that he has started has let in 3 or more goals every game. And that's not saying he hasn't played well at times. But again, last night, Russ, you saw him after the Crosby goal. He's losing his cool.
Yeah, he's pissed at his defense.
He should be pissed at his defense.
If Carey Price did that, no one would bat an eye if Carey Price called out his defense. No one would bat an eye.
That's right.
Yeah, that's like Jonas Gustafsson.
Lundqvist does that all the time. He gets pissed at Boyle and Girardi, and rightfully so. But I mean, you look at him disgust. Like, well, how about when Lundqvist threw the cage over because he was so mad?
Yeah.
I think at a certain point it's acceptable. He was let out to dry there, and then on top of that, his offense wasn't doing much either. They weren't putting pucks on the net. They weren't getting quality shots on net.
Right.
They weren't playing in front of him. I mean, and he's going to take the brunt of it. I'm sure he knows this. I think he has every right to call out. I played goalie, and I was always informed that you let your defense know what they're doing.
Yep.
Whether it's wrong, whether it's right. You're back there. You see it better than they see it. You let them know, and I think he should have.
I never played goal for hockey, but I played goal in soccer for a very long time, and I actually got a yellow card once for berating my own defenseman after a goal. I actually got carded.
You got a yellow card for yelling at your own team.
That's correct.
I have so much more respect for you actually right now. I love that.
And you're also, Mike, you're also asking me to break down goalie showing emotion when I cover a team whose legendary goalie was Billy Smith. He showed emotion too. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. He definitely showed emotion when he butt-ended Lindy Ruff in the face. I remember that.
He showed emotion when a fan took his toupee off once at the hotel. He showed a lot of emotion.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That's a great story.
I have to say that.
That is a great story.
Okay.
That's in my Ranger book, 100 Things Ranger Fans Should Know or Do Before They Die. Just saying.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this about Vasilevsky. He was making some super athletic saves at the beginning, and his team did take him out of the game. But Cooper is going to be like a creature of habit, and he's going to say, we did this last year, and he's going to go with Bishop. I just have a feeling.
If Bishop's okay to play, I think you're okay. You have to do it. I'm okay with that move. But if he's 60%, if Bishop's 60%, they can't.
What's your percentage? Like, I think he's going to be 75%, and I think if he's 75, he'll play him.
He was 75% pretty much all the playoffs last year.
Based on the record that Vasilevsky has, I mean, his goals against is over 3, with the exception of the game 1 when he substituted in for Bishop when he was injured. He's allowed 3 or more every game. So in that instance, if Bishop can walk, he's going to play. The question is, not Bishop, but Stamkos, because they've been playing around with this. And Russ, you've been saying consistently.
I think he'll play. I expect him to play.
I think he will. I think having that kind of player out there on a Game 7 when you can't get your emotions too heavy, if you make a mistake, you kind of need that, even if he's a 4th line, which I think he'll play that in that role position. I know, Mike, you've said that too. Yeah. I think you need that presence there. This is a do or die. They've been in the situation before. The one thing about this playoffs is we've learned that it doesn't matter what happened in the game before. In this entire series, every game is its own story. It's almost like shift by shift, and you need a Stamkos out there, I think.
Yeah, they advanced on the road last year in a Game 7, so they know they can do it. But I just think I always thought that he would play in an elimination because I just felt like with the mistake that was made with Seguin, they probably know they've got one shot to really get something out of him the rest of this season, and if they're going to take that chance, it might as well be in this game, right?
This isn't a broken ankle. This isn't a concussion. This isn't coming off a bad cut or something like that. This is being on blood thinners is something that directly affects your heart.
I know.
So this is something that you have to be. This is not something you can come back where you're quote unquote 50% if you're dealing with something vascular. This is something that the doctors have to say, yeah, he can play. This isn't like playing through pain or playing through an injury.
Doctors already said that. Our doctors already said he can play.
Right, but that's the thing. They have to have been planning for this at least 72 hours before Game 7 to get him in the position to be able to do it. And yeah, instead of playing March or so, they'll play Stamkos on the 4th line. That's what they'll probably do. But what I think is most important is what Cooper did in Game 5. I mean, last night, basically, Brian Boyle was their entire offense. They didn't get anything out of the Kucherov line. They didn't get anything out of the Filppula-Drouin line, except for the goal that was called back. So, Drouin was moving around. He played with Johnson a while. He played with other, they moved him around a little bit. But they need those performances out of those big guys like they got in Game 5. And what Cooper may do is increase their minutes like he did in Game 5, shorten his bench. And if Stamkos is there, then he maybe plays power plays. He maybe plays 5-6 minutes. It's more an emotional thing than anything.
And they need help on their power play, man. Do they ever?
Again, their power play should be simple. They should have Hedman bombing away there.
That's it. When they're effective, Hedman shooting the puck. Yeah. It's that simple.
It really is that simple, so I think that has to happen. I also think that they need to play Slater Cuckoo more minutes. He had a really good game again. And
sure
he's
did.
like the one fresh set of legs they have on defense that probably isn't letting him down on a lot of shifts. And so... But Cooper, again, likes his veterans. He
can move the puck, though. It's not just that his outlet passes are good, but outside of Hedman, he's one of the few guys back there that can actually skate with the puck.
Yes. Watching that game, Russ, I don't get concerned when I've seen Cuckoo drop, go into the offensive zone, drop in, even in the corner to try to set up a play. I do get concerned when a guy like Schuster, who scored a couple goals in the playoffs, when he gets caught deep, he can't get back. That's what
like the European Chris Terrian. That's what he is. Sorry, Chris.
But Pittsburgh, they're most likely going to rely on Crosby and Malkin, and Phil Kessel is the scoring. But we'll save the rest of that for tomorrow for the pregame for Game 7. But I'll save St. Louis San Jose to the close of the show. I want to talk about a little bit of news. There was a report out of Russia this morning that the head of the KHL board of directors, who happens to be a good buddy of Vladimir Putin.
Of course.
Most guys in those positions probably are, yes.
If you're not a good buddy of Putin, where are you?
Siberia.
Yeah, the Gulag says that Pavel Datsyuk will most likely be joining CSKA. They didn't say Moscow or St. Petersburg. I'm assuming St. Petersburg. And the funny thing is that interviews in Russia during the World Championship. He was still non-committal, but this came out. I mean, Russ, to me, this just sounds like it's a matter of time that he.
Done deal.
Yeah.
He's going to be a big attraction in that league. They're counting on it. It wouldn't shock me if they've had this set up for years, like 3 or 4 years, talking about it, and Datsuk just kept pushing it off as long as he could. He'll probably make. I'm going to guess he's going to make about $4 to $5 million a season. That's what I'm thinking he's going to get paid.
Tax-free.
Tax-free.
In a paper bag.
Probably in a suitcase. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
Another interesting KHL note: the player who led Russia in scoring, and I always have trouble with the pronunciations of, but I believe it's pronounced Shipachyov.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's tough. I'm sorry.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Make me feel even more self-conscious.
It was like a baby deer trying to ice skate.
29 years old. He's a veteran of the KHL. There's been some interest from NHL teams, but it was reported yesterday that he, like Nikita Zaitsev last summer, may have an option in his KHL contract where the team will keep him for another year. Now, Zaitsev's 24 years old. He was 23 at the time, so it wasn't a big consequence because he's just entering the prime of his career. This guy's 29 years old, and there are teams out there in the NHL that are looking to add short-term veteran guys from Europe, guys like Donsko, even though he's not that old. I mean, the opportunity is there, but now this guy may get stuck in Russia.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Extra cash to that parent club
Yes.
kills that option in many cases. And so if there is a team that really wants them, they'll just sort of be held for ransom by the club that has the option, and they'll buy their way out of it. That's what'll happen.
I mean, if it depends on the price too. It's like one of those things where if it's like a guy like Panarin or Donskoy, those are pretty. They're all the guys are low risk, low risk, high reward. So, but for every Donskoy and Panarin, you have a Slepyshev and where are you now, Sergei Plotnikov, and it's just not everyone works out. But at the price, it's sometimes it's worth the risk.
Yeah, and a guy like Viktor Tikhonov, who came back to the NHL from the KHL, is now going back to the KHL.
Make up your mind.
And Plotnikov, funny thing, Plotnikov who ended up in Arizona, the rumors are he's going back to the KHL as well.
Not shocked.
That did not work out at all.
No, not at all. Okay, a little touch on the Memorial Cup last night, a game that we didn't see. Thank you very much, NHL Network.
I mean, I have to say something here. I mean, the fact that they showed a condensed version this morning at 11 o'clock, I mean, come on. You couldn't have showed that game 2 hours tape delayed last night. It started at 10.
What were they showing? Because people at work were talking
tonight. They were showing the replay of the interviews with Mike Sullivan from Tampa Bay and the replays of the game, which was the same thing you would see on NBCSN or
they literally could have tape delayed it an hour or two last night, and people like me would have stayed up and watched the entire game. Instead, we sort of get the condensed version, and that's weird. Stinks.
I didn't even bother watching the condensed version.
I had to watch it. It's all I had.
Yeah, I know. But the London Knights go to 3-0 with a 5-2 victory over Randa. Russ, Mitch Marner again, 4 assists. He now has 13 points in 3 games, 3 points away from the Memorial Cup all-time record of 16 points.
Yeah, Jeff Larmer, Steve's brother.
Which, in and of itself, that doesn't mean anything. It's
his brother.
But yeah, Jeff Larmer, that Hall of Famer. But 13 points.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
No, he's kidding.
Okay. Sorry.
Sarcasm.
He was a really good player, though.
Yeah, but he wasn't as good as Steve. Although Steve wasn't good in '94 either. I wish Ranger fans would wake up to that, but they love Steve Larmer, so whatever. Go ahead.
But again, the conversation going forward here is, scoring this many points, does Marner make the Leafs next year?
Well, here's a couple things I noticed. He did have a great game. He got rocked once really bad. And the funny thing is, Sam Constantino, who's on my show a lot, said, wow, he hasn't been hit like that in ages. And so it does show you how he can go in that league and almost never be touched. But the next level, he's going to be touched. And he got rocked once, and they had hit pretty good in that game. So Now, as it's getting a little tighter, they are hitting them a little bit. London was very fortunate in the sense that I thought Ruandaranda's goaltending was horrible. I mean, obviously he gave up one goal that was a gimme, but he gave up 2 or 3 that I wasn't thrilled with. London as a team does a great thing because for every 2 or 3 skill players they also have 2 or 3 grinders, and the grinders really draw a lot of penalties and do a great job. Christian Dvorak, again, was pretty much unstoppable when he wanted to go to the net. Like, he's ready to make the jump, at least to the AHL. I'm not sure what his age is, but I think he's okay to do that.
I think he is too.
Yeah, but the other thing is, Timo Meier was a world beater considering his team was like really undermanned. It was a 2-man offense, and Timo Meier was most of the offense. I think if they would have held their composure a little bit, London would have been really in for the game of their life, and I still think they're going to get that out of Ruandaranda before it's done. Parsons is the difference maker. Out of all the teams in these playoffs, he is the one really solid goalie, and to be honest, right now I'm leaning towards him as being the best goalie in the draft, regardless of what the other rankings have been, because he's been rising on my list anyhow, and he's been really great.
And most people had Brandon as the, if London was the number 1, then Brandon was the number 2. If they lose the Red Deer today, they're eliminated. They're out. Wow. So, and just a note here, looking at in the background there, Russ's sleeping dog is not a commentary on the.
Jordan is not a commentary. And, Mike, you asked me an opinion.
I see him now. Sorry, I just now saw. I didn't even notice that before.
I've been watching the dog the whole show.
You can watch her. She's going to sleep the whole show.
That is awesome. Oh, my God.
But here, Mike, you did ask me about J.J. Pinich. Is that how you pronounce his name? Yeah.
Pikinich,
right. He is the classic overager in a league where he's got good size, he doesn't have great skill, he's got some skills, and he could just work his way around the net. And that was a great pickup for London, but I have to say, I don't think he's a highly skilled player. I think he'll have a role at the NHL level, possibly, but this is like your classic overager.
Yeah. Let's touch on, there's been some talk. We're getting the echo here. Hopefully it goes away. There has been some talk over the last couple weeks about teams, and we'll limit it to the top 10 of the NHL draft, because we want to talk about this all show. About certain teams at the higher level of the NHL draft that may be amenable to trading down. Now, being somebody who follows the Leafs and covers the Leafs, there's not a chance in hell they're trading out of number 1.
Actually, did you hear what Morgan Riley said on the midday show today?
I heard a bit of it, yes.
He basically said Babcock spoke to Matthews more than he spoke to him.
Right. So all pretense is gone. Austin Matthews is back.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. It's over.
Yeah.
And they're going to try doing what you guys have talked about before, which is create these other narratives. They're going to, but we all know. We all know the truth.
Jillian, log off and log back on. Maybe there's something, But yeah, it was funny because TSN's Darren Drager reported that he was in St. Petersburg with Babcock when he was watching, I think, Russia Finland or one of the Russian games, and on television during that game was the U.S. and the Czechs, and all Babcock did was look at the screen when Austin Matthews was on scoring a goal and just like shaking his head and smiling, and he's just like, I hit the jackpot, baby.
Yep.
I hit the jackpot. And that's, so it's nothing against Patrick Laine. I think he's going to be fantastic, but it's over. It's Austin Matthews. But okay, we know that Eck mentioned the possibility of Winnipeg. There were a lot of interested parties in Laine. Russ, I don't see them trading out of number 2. No way.
I don't see a good motivation for them to do it. They have young defensemen.
They do.
They have good young forwards. Scheifele's becoming a star now, which is what they'd hoped, right?
Right.
That was this whole Scheifele was really their first huge pick, and he's working out. So it really makes Cheverdayoff and the whole group look pretty good. It's taken a little time, but as we've learned in this NHL, you could pick first every year and not really make any headway if you don't do well. Obviously, Edmonton's proving that. So I don't think they're trading this pick. I think they're going to take Laine. I think they'll put him in right away. I think even though that's not what Cheverdayoff tends to do, I don't think he's going to give them a choice based on the preseason. And I think he'll at least get his 9 games, and then we'll see where he's at. Like, if he shows some sort of huge flaw, then you worry about it. But if not, he'll make the team.
Now, here's where things may start to get interesting. I mean, Columbus is at number 3. I think Columbus needs a center to replace Ryan Johansson.
Or defenseman.
Well, they need
defensemen.
Well, they have
not as badly, though.
They have 2.
Seth Jones. So I think the need for defensemen is sort of overwhelmed now by the need to replace Johansson. But
that's fair.
I don't know whether the replacement for Johansson is there unless they either want to trade down to like 5 or 6 to draft Dubois, or take Dubois and reach a little bit at 3. And it may not be a big reach.
It's not a big reach, and I could see him doing it. Although Dubois is not like a natural center.
Right.
He plays more center than some of these guys that come in the draft and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a center." Like let's say Mitch Marner, who probably doesn't stand a chance of playing center in the NHL for a very long time. Now maybe someday there'll be a time for that, but he's not going to play it at the beginning. I'm pretty sure of that. Yes. But I think Dubois can do it. I think Dubois can do it. He's got the size. I don't think it's that big a reach. Now, could somebody change their mind and say, "Hey, we'll trade in that pick because we want Puljujarvi"? Maybe. Maybe they could roll the dice and if for some reason Dubois goes before, then if they decide, hey, we need a center, but we also need someone who's a goal scorer, then maybe they'll get Tkachuk. Maybe they're going to trade with somebody like, as an example, I don't know, would they trade with Vancouver? If they trade with Vancouver and Vancouver's in the 5th spot, well, then you're either going to get Dubois or Tkachuk, and they probably could live with that based on what am I going to get out of Edmonton.
Well, here's where I think the action starts, is Edmonton. Because
I agree.
I think that I think they need help now. I'm not saying they're going to trade out of the first round. I think they can trade down if they get somebody who is an established defenseman who can help them immediately, because I think they're going to be moving pieces all around the chessboard, Dan. I think they're going to move 1 or 2 of those guys,
Sure.
Either Yakupov or Eberle or maybe Nugent Hopkins. So if they can trade down, maybe get an extra pick, and then also get themselves a defenseman. I mean, we were talking about the possibility of maybe a team like a Philadelphia or a team like an Anaheim with a backload of defensemen, maybe getting that pick and trading one of their extra defensemen. I think that's a really good possibility.
Yeah, I think it is. I definitely think they want defensemen that can play right away. I mean, last year's draft, they acquired Griffin Reinhart, and they thought they had an NHL-ready defenseman, and that hasn't worked out as of yet. Not saying that he won't be down the road, but as of right now, he does not look like an NHL defenseman, and he couldn't stick with that team that was in dire need of defensemen. So obviously, he's still a project. But if they're looking for NHL-ready defensemen, the thing is, Edmonton can make trades. For defensemen, they have some pieces that they can move out, excluding the 4th pick. Like, you could trade Eberle and probably get help on the blue line and maybe another pick. So I think for them to trade out of 4, it would have to be a substantial offer.
Yeah, I would say they'd have to get a defenseman that they feel could be impactful and not that much of a drop down than if they drafted, let's say, Julevi or Chychrun. I think that's the way they'd have to look at it and say, okay, even though we might have to wait 2 years, maybe 3 tops for one of these guys, and maybe Julevi's 1 year,
Right. Just for example, I'm just being hypothetical here. I haven't heard anything about this, but I mean, if you're Edmonton, would you trade Jordan Eberle for the 19th pick from the Islanders and Calvin DeHaan?
I might.
Because he's an NHL-ready defenseman. You can plug him into your top 4. You can play him 20 minutes a game, and you improve your roster.
I mean, I might. I mean, I'd have to seriously look at that. I probably would hold you up for another pick, like a 4th rounder or something.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm just saying that's the kind of deal that they can make without trading the 4th pick, because with those forwards, they have the pieces to improve their blue line.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to seriously consider it. What we don't know is, like, how much pressure is Chiarelli under to actually get this team to look like a team. And if he's under that pressure, then he is going to trade out of this pick.
Yes.
If he's not under any pressure,
that's fair.
Then he'll take the best player he can get in that spot.
Right.
I think that's the way it's going to work out.
Now, I don't see Vancouver trading out of 5. They need a defense badly, and that they're perfectly positioned to get one. Calgary, I think they need wingers to play with Bennett and with Monahan. I mean, they have Goudreau, but I think they need another scoring winger, and that could really help them. They're pretty good on defense. They're not gonna. There's no goaltender that's worthy of a pick in the top 10. So, Arizona is interesting, Russ, because I think that might be the team that they that Columbus trades down to and they trade up to, because I think in the absence of Matthews, they may want to get Matthew Tkachuk. There's that logical tie-in with his dad playing in Arizona. I mean, that is a consideration for a team that is looking for PR. Plus, he's a good player.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not sensing, and look, that is possible. I can't say it's not. Anything in the draft is possible. But what I'm sensing out of that team, based on moves and such, is I wouldn't be shocked if they sort of take this Stan Hinkie approach and try and get a lot more picks for their pick. Like and maybe they go towards the middle to the bottom of the first round to get another pick or two. For some reason, I just sense that, and again, I'm not trying to bash analytics people, but this is the kind of thing when you have an analytics guy in charge, they always feel like, well, hey, we could find these guys. They basically go in with a piece of paper and say, this is the type of players we're looking for with these kinds of numbers, and this is
right. Here's the algorithm, basically.
Yeah, and I was going to say algorithm, but I didn't know if that would really be the right word. And if they do fit that, you know what? That's what they're going to do. And so I sense that they might do that. I don't know if they'll trade up for Tkachuk. I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to trade assets. I think they're going to be a team that's going to acquire assets.
Yeah, well, I mean, you give them a 1 and a couple 2s. I mean, could you move up from the late 20s up to number 7? I mean,
yeah, you might be able to.
I mean, I know, even though it goes against the analytical code, I suspect the Leafs with 12 picks will package 2 or 3 picks to move up into the middle of the first round or even higher in the first round.
They have 2 first-rounders, right?
They have their own in Pittsburgh.
So the Pittsburgh one gives them flexibility to definitely move up.
Yeah,
right, plus
they would love to get Alex Nylander. They would.
Sure.
Plus, they have 7 second-round picks in the next 3 years.
Wow. Oh, second-round picks are gold because second-round picks really help you move up.
Right. And you could package a couple of those second-round picks along with that low first to move up into the teens, or maybe if a team like Arizona who wants to accumulate picks, maybe they throw in another pick and another player to get up there. I mean, that's something with a team that's got 20 draft picks in the next 2 years that they might be interested in doing.
I'll tell you, if I'm Buffalo,
yes,
I would rather move down than stay in that spot, because to me, in that spot, like, are they really going to go with another Russian kid like Sergachev with the bad luck they've had with Russian players? Because if they don't, they might be making a reach defensively. There's only like 4 really solid defensemen, and then the rest are good to pretty good, and are going to take a lot of work. And
I think they're hoping for Chychrun. If it's Sergachev, this is the thing, and this is only a feel from what I've heard around Buffalo. There's a lot of talk about the Sabres trading out of the first round and getting themselves an established defenseman for that number 8 pick. And
yeah, I can see them doing that. I can.
I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and that to me that smells of Anaheim, because together a guy like Sami Vatanen with Ristolainen on your top pairing, you're gonna have to pay Vatanen probably $4 to $5 million on a new contract. But pair him up with Ristolainen, who's a clear number 1 defenseman, and you have a great pairing for the next decade. So
absolutely,
I could see, there is no pressure on Tim Murray yet, but now with Reinhart, with Ristolainen, with Eichel now entering his second year, people in Buffalo want to see them start to win. They were okay with the transition. They were okay with the growing pains. Now they want to see them, climb the standings and contend for a playoff spot. And I think they have to make some more moves to be able to do that. 9 and 10 are Montreal and Colorado. I could see Montreal wanting to do something, Russ, because Montreal, I think, is desperate to make a splash of some sort. Because after the year they had last year, they need a healthy Carey Price, but I also think they need to address their offense, which is terrible and inconsistent.
I can see them moving down to gain a roster player. Like if in Toronto we're going to wave around Kadri, I could see them swapping spots with them for that other spot, and then Toronto could get Nylander if they want it, he's still there, and they get a roster player. I could see them doing that. That does make a lot of sense. I could also see Carolina possibly moving down because, like, they're a team that's right in the middle. They're a team that hasn't drafted great, but some of the guys that they have there are good.
Right.
They might want to acquire more picks, too. That's just a hunch.
Okay. I want to move on to San Jose and St. Louis. And Jillian, you were in San Jose for the Game 7.
Yes.
To me, this is the opportunity for this team. Unlike Tampa Bay, who had, last year again in the games didn't show up. I think this is do or die for San Jose because if they go back to St. Louis for a Game 7, even though I don't think St. Louis has been the better of the two teams, this is the chance. This is the chance for the Sharks to shake off the shackles of the choke label.
They already have.
No, they haven't.
I'll get to that in a minute. Jillian goes first.
Okay, but they really.
I would say if they don't win and then they lose in Game 7, it seems like the fans there are not going to feel satisfied unless they punch a ticket to the Stanley Cup. I think that to them is this is the first time in their franchise history that they'd make it, and they're ready for it. And I think they're going to be playing in front of a very, very loud and rowdy group of fans. And in that Game 7, I had mentioned when I was sitting with the people I was sitting next to, I was like, man, if they can get out there and get one goal, they just need to get one goal, and then I think you can ride that momentum. There is something to be said about that. And I think that's going to be huge tonight. They got to come out, and they have to get something quick because that place is going to be fired up, and you want to ride that momentum. St. Louis has to be able to – it's going to be those first 10 minutes. They're going to be tough. It's going to be hard. And if St. Louis can't hold out and the Sharks can get that first goal quick, I think there might be no looking back in that situation.
Dan, St. Louis went in Game 5 and did exactly what Jillian was saying. They snuffed out the crowd completely.
Right.
And that was the key to the game. Now they're going to have Elliott in goal, and I mean, we've been talking about the fact that Tarasenko has sort of disappeared since the middle of the second round. I mean, what do you think St. Louis has to do to make it to force a Game 7?
Look, you will not win the series if Tarasenko is held pointless. It's that simple. Your best players have to be the best players. Look at each round, the team that goes home. Their star players usually struggle. Yep. And Tarasenko has to get on the board. They need competent goaltending. They don't need great goaltending. They need competent, above average, B-level goaltending. If you're gonna get beat cleanly. No rebounds, no soft goals, no shots get short side high because you're caught in your crease. Just competent goaltending, and I think the Blues can be in good shape. They played well with their backs against the wall, and I think this is going to be a tight game again tonight. I still think San Jose is the better team. And look, we're talking about San Jose choking and whatnot, and I don't think that this is your big brothers San Jose Sharks. I think this is a completely different team. Eck was the only one that believed on this team on this panel at the beginning of the season. Most of us had them missing the playoffs. Yep. This team got rebuilt on the fly. They're better. They're almost like a faster version of the Kings team. They're big, they're physical, and yet they have really good speed, really good defensemen. If they get Marty Jones back on track, I think they're going to be tough to beat. But look, unless at this time of year, unless you blow a 4-goal lead with 10 minutes to go in the game, you're not choking. These are really good games. No one's dominating a game. It's just it's ebbs and flows, and it's whoever superstar normally scores the big goal when you need them, or the crucial power play goal. It doesn't. Your power play can stink right now. You can be 0 for 6 in the game, but if you score that one power play goal when you need to, everything's fine.
Russ?
I'll tell you, I saw Hitch's press conference yesterday, and that was the least convincing Hitch I've ever seen. And I've watched this guy his entire career. When he was trying to sell the fact that, well, we wanted to spark the team and Jake accomplished that, I almost did a spit take. I wasn't buying it. I don't know what the guy next to him was. I don't know if that's the PR guy or that was another player waiting to be interviewed. I couldn't really see because they kept showing it to Hitch and I was watching it on a smaller screen. But I wasn't buying it. And so Elliott's going to help him because he is a veteran. But at the end of the day, I will say it like this. If San Jose doesn't win this game, then they might regret that for like that entire group's career.
Sure.
Because this is your opportunity. This is it. I mean, if you're the coach, you don't have to say anything but we've set up everything right here for this right now. You want to do the special clap if you want to, Whatever
I
you
love
want
the
to do.
special clap.
But, like the Hoosiers clap.
Secret handshake.
Whatever you want to do in the locker room, whatever, you want to be Herb Brooks or, in the locker room, whatever you want to
Shouldn't
do.
need a speech that time of year.
Yeah.
In certain red light districts, the special clap has a different meaning.
Oh.
But I'm just saying, this is it. This is what you played for. This is what you set it up for. Somebody has to come through for them.
I think the Sharks team has it. I do. When they come out, they have that killer instinct. They do. When they come out and they get those first goals, they don't look back. And I think Russ has said it before too. They're the type of team that will step right on your throat, and they can do it. And I think if some team's going to do it, it would be the San Jose Sharks. In this series, they've shown that instinct. In this series, I think minus that one game.
Yeah, I was gonna say every time I start to think they finally, they take the tailpipe. The game five was like, okay, they have a chance to take control of the series, and they didn't show up. And if they win Game 6 convincingly, and they're going on to the Stanley Cup Final, I will drop the choke moniker. But if they lose Game 6 and it's going to a Game 7, I'm thinking, somebody get ready to give the Heimlich, because it's not. They need to come through and get through to the final for the first time in the franchise's history.
But the choke mantra was on Thornton, it was on Marlowe, it was on Nabokov, it was on most of the guys that aren't even on this roster anymore.
No, but two of them are still there.
Two of them are still there, but they're not in the primary role outside of Thornton.
There was a nice happy-go-lucky movie called, A Dolphin's Tale, and if you want to have a movie written A Shark's Tale, they need to actually come through this time.
Right.
And I think it would be a disappointing series if the Sharks don't win. They have been the better team.
Yes.
Even the Blues had said it. If it wasn't for Elliott in Game 1, that series would have been 3-0 and they would have been done for. So I think the Sharks have been the better team, and if they can't win this series, I do think at some level, even if it's different players, they still have choked because they have been the better team, and not winning this series is a failure for them. I think the Blues, if they can win it, I think they've exceeded my expectations because I don't expect them to win at this point. I don't think they're a bad team, though. I don't think they're a bad team.
Yeah.
But
nobody's a bad team now. I'll say this, though. If it goes to overtime in a Game 7, it's all bets are off. I don't blame anybody then at that point because I've seen so many weird things happen.
Right.
If it's a 6-1 Game 7 loss, or it all depends on the situation and the circumstance, and there's lots of storylines that happen in the games. Maybe somebody gets hurt, something could happen like that.
Yep.
You never know. So to say it as boldly as if they don't win, it's choking. There are other things that can happen that are very possible that could alleviate that status. But I think that I also think they shouldn't let it go to Game 7. They need to win tonight.
Yes, I agreed. Okay, a couple rumors Eck posted on his column this morning that we should discuss before we check out a potential theme song for the show. Eck is reporting Eric Stahl that he's been hearing over the last couple weeks, a source familiar to the situation, that the Ottawa Senators are very serious about making a pitch to Eric Stahl. Russ, I know they're desperate up the middle, but wow.
Yeah, has he moved off the $9 million number, I hope?
Well, I don't know what the salary would be. If it's Eugene Melnyk, $9 million, unless it's the total of the contract for 3 years, $9 million.
Yeah, it should be. That's what it should be. $3 million a year.
It should be. It really should be, but he's not going to get that, right? Because he's Eric Stahl. I guess if they were able to get him for 2 years, and I don't think he'll take 2 years, but if he wants to play in Canada, if he would go for 2 years, $12 million, I'd probably do it. Because they are desperate for a center, and at least maybe you can get something out of him. I think the Rangers misused him, but I also think he's not the same player. He's probably a 50-point player now.
Let's approach it this way. If we're Eric Stahl's agent and we have to balance what he wants to get his client and what is out there in the market, is the best you can do probably 4 years, and the worst you can do is 2 years?
Yep.
Yeah.
To me, that means that then I can see a Mike Green contract, 3 years, $18 million, $6 million per.
And then buyer remorse after one season.
Yeah, I thought Mike Green. The difference with Mike Green is there was still the hope of getting offense out of him as an offensive defenseman. That price tag is higher than the center that doesn't look like the center he used to be, though. That's the thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And we're talking if Stahl signed with Ottawa, he would probably be the number 2 behind Kyle Turek.
Right.
So maybe he could succeed in that role, but I don't know. And I don't know if he's a good fit with Guy Boucher and Mark Crawford. That's the other thing.
I'm not worried about that. I think he can fit with anybody. He's a very accommodating guy, a smart guy. I don't think that's the issue. I think it's the issue of what does he have left.
Eck also mentioned what we talked about on the podcast, on the Buzzcast yesterday about Yakupov and the Islanders. I think it's plausible. I still think Montreal. I think Montreal makes so much sense, but
I mean, the island makes sense too. I mean, they definitely need a jolt, and he could give them a jolt if they actually use him correctly. He still has one of the best shots in the league, but the problem is he never seems to be either in the position to take it or on the right line to take it. And the limited power play he's gotten, when he can take it, he does score. So if nothing else, if they moved him to the top power play and they just gave him tremendous amounts of power play time, he would get some points that way, without a doubt. So it could be a nice move for them. I think they should explore it.
Yes, I agree. Like I said before, I'm willing to take. If you're telling me said player with talent and skill to play with John Tavares, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm not picky at this point, but no errors.
That's a plausible way to, after yesterday's fight that we had, Dan, to replace Okposo with at least the hope that you could maybe get something same or maybe even more upside down the road.
That's fair.
It won't cost you an arm and a leg.
Right.
Yeah, the other name he mentioned was Radulov, and that's gonna, I'm sure, pick up during the finals and after the finals. I think he can sign at any time. The teams he mentions are Colorado, which the connection.
They're the leader.
Yeah, with Patrick Waugh going back to I think his days in the Q. Florida, Montreal, and Detroit. He's a tough one, Russ, because he's got a lot of talent, but he's also, from what I heard, he's a loose cannon, and there are character issues going back to his days in Nashville.
But I'm gonna go again with the Islanders for this one because I heard that he was in New York right before the World Championships, and I don't know if he was there just to sort of hang out and maybe go to Brooklyn and see some guys, or was it more than that? Maybe he was sort of asking around, and so. And again, if you're looking to replace Okposo, he is a big forward who could at least score 18 goals. Like, I think he has that in him. I don't know how much consistent play he has in him, and I don't know if he's going to be a perfect citizen, but if he does do those things, there is some upside there.
And you've got the Russian community in Brooklyn, and you've got some Russian players in Kuhlman who are, and Grabowski's Belarusian, but you have some countrymen on his team, so that might be a try.
Perhaps.
What do you think of that, Dan?
Yep.
You might have some countrymen on his team. Probably Kuhlman, but I don't know about Grabowski. I don't think it would cost that much. I think that's another avenue.
$4.5 million, I think.
Probably 1 year, 2 year deal.
Yep.
And I think that's okay. That's all right. Yep. He has a resume. Like, look, I don't know what he is anymore, but I think 18 to 22 goals, good size. I'd be okay with that, and I think he'd be comfortable in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Any Eastern European player would be comfortable playing and living in that area.
Yeah, no question.
Okay, to end the show here, Russ dug out this gem, and
I'm gonna hate this.
We may use this as our theme song. Dan, you pay particular attention to this, and tell me if you can pick out who the lead singer of this particular song is.
I'm scared. I know the song. Is that Eck?
No, that is not Eck. That is a Hall of Fame hockey player, Dan. Who is it?
I have no idea.
He was a Hall of Fame New York Islander hockey player, Dan. Who is it?
Brian Trottier.
That is Brian Trottier.
Well, as soon as you said Islander, I had the voice just. Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
That's Brian Trottier covering "I Saw Her Standing There" by the Beatles.
All right, hold on 1 second. You guys keep talking. I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay.
You have scared Dan away. Good job, guys.
Billy, I have to tell you, when we were talking about this after the webcast yesterday. I pulled up, Johnny Bauer, the Hall of Fame Toronto Maple Leaf goaltender, did a Christmas song back in the mid-'60s called Honky the Christmas Goose, which is just brutal. I mean, I love Johnny Bauer. He's one of the best.
He's a great guy. If you ever met him,
great. Yeah, and anybody who has gone to a Sabres game at the First Niagara Center knows that, and I believe it's after every victory, they play a video on the center ice scoreboard of Gilbert Perreault, their Hall of Fame player, the first player ever drafted by the Sabres, singing Elvis Presley's song.
That's pretty amazing.
This happened. Oh.
And they have an amazing goal song too. They really.
Yeah, this Trottier song, this performance, I should say, happened before the Fan Fest, before the Memorial Cup, like a day and a half ago.
That's pretty amazing.
Which is the reason why.
But just to say though, when it comes to content decisions and artistic production decisions, that I think we should reference me first. Okay.
You have to show it again. If you're gonna show it, you gotta show it and like be proud.
Before we start, going off on tangents and getting all rogue here and making decisions for the show, I think we should consult the experts. Okay.
I think if there was a mic drop sound, it should go right there.
Yes.
Dang it, you're
I
gonna
don't
make
hear
it.
Mark Messier doing any tunes, so Mike Bossy may be in line next. Who knows?
Oh yeah. All I know is Brian Trottier singing that song. Probably not our best. I can probably come up with better decisions.
Or Emmy Award-winning Dan Petru,
yes.
Jill Fisher, Russ Cohen. I'm Michael Lagello. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.